The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. I have Seelan Karthi, founder and director of Navlan Consulting. Seelan, how are you?
Very good, Peter. Thank you for having me. Really, it's a pleasure to actually be here with you.
Absolutely. We are halfway around the world from each other. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, guys. I'm actually Seelan, born and bred in Malaysia. It's been a long journey, and it's come thus far, and it's great to be here and with all of you. My journey has been interesting. Being the only child for my mom and dad, and at this moment I'm a single father, and my dad passed away just about 2 years ago, and it's interesting that that passing on of my dad made I took a leap in my life to actually go and start on my own. And what I do currently is I do trainings, coachings, and consulting for corporate companies and also students, and also companies that are starting up, SME companies, small, medium businesses that, you know, with this whole pandemic that is happening globally, a lot of people are sadly losing their jobs. And so that's one thing that I'm also doing here in Malaysia, is to reach out to people who need to start up their own companies. It's a great time to start their own company for those people who are losing their jobs. So one way of actually doing it is using design thinking to actually just start. It's okay to fail, because if you do not fail, then how do you know you're right? So that's how I do this. Yeah.
I love that story. We've had a conversation a little bit before the podcast, and just a driven educator. What about your education? How is your education path? And then, how do you start to see things differently? But let's start with your educational path. What is it like growing up where you grew up? What does it look like? And then you are working on a doctoral program, I believe. And tell us all the way the quick journey through your education.
So yeah, I started off doing my bachelor's of computer science. It's an honors program. It was all about algorithms. Yeah, it's one of the final projects I did was actually health informatics, diagnosing heart attacks using computer algorithms. After that, I continued to pursue. I met one of the deans of a university, and he said, "Seelan, you would need to pursue to a master's, if that is your path." So I said, "All right." I met him to one of my favorite uncles, my father's youngest brother. He's one of my mentor in education until today, the last 30 over years. And he said, "You got to meet the dean." I said, "All right, bring it on. Let's meet the dean." And then he took me into it, and he said, continue the master's, Seelan, and apply it and see what happens. And I did my master's in neural network application. It's a master's of computer science. Also, it's all about AI. It's about artificial intelligence. But this is the AI of year 2002. So it was not the AI that we see today. It's very different. It's all broken pieces. It was trying to make AI. The birth of AI was that period. Everybody was not even touching AI then, and so you can see I was all over the place. Hence, my master's took me 4 years to actually get it all properly done. So I wrote algorithms to diagnose breast cancer, whether it's benign or malignant, because that's the data point I needed. I was trying to diagnose it using glaucoma disease, but I couldn't get data points from the US. But they said, "Look, we actually have breast cancer data. Would this be okay?" I said, "As long as I've got any data, I just need to feed in into my learning and let it spit out some information and see whether the accurate is accurate." It was accurate. It was 99% accuracy to diagnose breast cancer using that particular algorithm. Yeah. So interesting is then from there on, I always wanted to do my PhD, Peter. Yeah. So one of it is to be a medical doctor. But interestingly, I went to a university and they actually took me and put me into a hospital for 2 weeks. I was there for about 2 weeks. I went through that stint, but it got me to decide that maybe not being a medical doctor is a different path. Maybe I need to want to do something else. Okay, and hence today where I am today. After the 20 years, when I finished, I graduated in 2007 of my masters, and now I'm actually going to pursue my PhD, and it's going to be on innovation. It's design thinking is a small element to it, but I'm looking at a bigger framework of innovation for companies where, as you know, many companies do not innovate. They want to, but they're struggling. As much as many startups want to innovate, they're struggling. And also students. I know today is a different period where young people, young students, young children are innovating and building stuff. I think it's a great thing that the PhD is one, but the whole design thinking element is another element that it would help any walks of life to come up with a new idea and take it on from there. So that's my journey in terms of my career path, in terms of my studies as well.
Let's dig into your career. And actually, you mentioned businesses, and we've had conversations about, corporations and design thinking and working in that area. But I'm real curious about the students, right? We left our conversation just the last time we spoke. It was just very invigorating because I love design thinking, and I love to teach that at the high school level. You've created some amazing things around that. And I wanted to just kind of so how would you, or how do you want to change the education system where it involves design thinking? What does it look like to you?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Peter. I mean, as I was doing for corporate companies, I was getting a lot of calls coming in saying, Seelan, do you do for students? Do you do design thinking for students? And I said, yeah, why not? I don't have an opportunity because at this moment, that was early stages in 2 years back when I started. I just went to corporate companies. One of the persons that inspired me was my son, and he was always talking about design thinking at home because when he passes my laptop, he sees the word design thinking at every page. So he said, design thinking again, design thinking again. So I said, yeah, then I said, come here, son. I called him and I said, you know what's design thinking? I said, you got to think, and I just told him in the context of a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old boy needs to understand design thinking. And I just told him this, you need to build something and you got to try it out. And it's called prototype. That's all I told him, and he started to take his Lego and everything he started building ever since was called a prototype. And he's got a vessel in his room now. It is a NASA space shuttle. And 2 days later, it becomes a holocraft. And then 3 days later, it turns into a car with a wing. It keeps building on it. And he says it's prototyping, Appa. So I said, okay, fine. Now that got me into wow, if a child like this can understand, I said students need to do this as well. Everybody needs to fail fast and fail cheap. Hence, that's why I got opportunities from the Ministry of Education and from a university here as well. For they call it STEM. I think you understand, science, technology, and also maths and engineering. There's also programs here such as that, Peter. So that was one of it's called STEM Genius program. So this is kind of the high order thinking guys, the cream of the crop. And they said, let's try these out with them. Interestingly, Peter, when I did it, they're actually 17 years old, right? It's like the O levels, yeah, it's old. And, we in Malaysia, we follow the British education. Mm-hmm. So it's O level. So we did 3-4 groups of prototyping, run through the whole design thinking. In fact, I stayed there overnight with them. The night we had a night discussion about how IDEO does design thinking, how Apple does design thinking, and they were getting inspired, these different 17-year-old kids, I would say students, yeah. And the next day, they came up with amazing physical low-fidelity prototypes. Even the doctors and the PhD doctors who are from the university who were there, they said, goodness, these guys came up with amazing, bold, brave, brilliant ideas. And she said, Seelan, we need to continue this program. Because the way you structured it And it's very inspiring for me as well, Peter, because when I did this last year, and then she came back, we did one more early this year, and then the whole pandemic came about, and but she's very in touch with me. Since we need to do one before the end of this year as well. But the ideas that came up from the students are amazing. And Peter, we shouldn't stop there, right? Ideas are merely ideas, but ideas you don't help the students to take into the next level,
Yes.
then that idea will not, it just dies down. We need to teach them how to take it and solve people's problem with that idea. It's not about a return on investment, Peter. I think what I've learned from students is not about show me the ROI. No, it's not about return on investment. Your return on intention, if that is right, the returns of investment will be right. So it's a great time to mold students. That's what I saw. That's my experience. And I think it's a great avenue that we start them young, start them in schools, not just the university. Of course, the university is coming to me as well. Let's build programs for them. I said, yes, why not? We should. But if we can go back earlier in the education system, it's the right thing to do. Help them come up with different thinking and do it and sprint it out. So I put design thinking, design doing, and design sprint. They're all put together and just try out, fail your way to success.
I just had a conversation with a young man on the past weekend, and we were talking about like what he was struggling with. And it is exactly what you just said. It is the fact that when young people have ideas, well, when they're young, they just do it, right? They just play around. But then when they get them into a system, then they wait. And they're like, well, I don't know if this is right. And somehow we scare them out of that decision-making process. And what I love about what you're talking about, what you're doing, is universal, right? It's one of the things that youth, when they come of age, they really struggle with making that decision. And this is such a roadmap to teach them that your first decision, maybe second decision, isn't going to be perfect. It's going to be messy and everything. So I love your angle coming into this. So you see this on the business side. You see this on the education side. Where do you think is a great place to start? Do you think like early as 5 years old, 3 years old? How do you see yourself immersing this design thinking? But it's so much more than design thinking. We've had conversations. You've leveled up and done some really amazing things with agile and everything that's plugged into here. But what age do you think that would work best in your experience so far?
You're right. Doing design thinking, or we can call it anything, creative thinking or creative design thinking. At the end, you're designing something. I realized that there's no age limit to design anything, Peter. In life, even as how young you are to how old you are, we are all learning. We are all students, Peter, right? That's how I look at it, right? It can be a 78-year-old wise young man who is still a student because he's still learning, right? And it could be a 3-year-old, we call him or her a boy, all right, or a child, but he or she is also learning. It's just that we are all never stop learning. So I would say we are all students, Peter, right? It's just that we have a system that starts us young and we call them student, and we say, go into teenage world, and then you go into universities, and then now you're no more a student, you are a teenager, and now you're a young adult, and now you're an adult, you're professional, and now you get to the mid-40s, and we just are categorizing. But you know what? We're all learning, whether in the institution of learning, right, or outside the institution of learning. I believe that we are always learning.
That's the beauty of it, is the categorization of what we think, and then outside the box. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's very key. And you're bringing up a great point there too, right? Because if we start to categorize people, they start thinking, oh, well, I can't do that until. And I run into that all the time too. So that's beautiful. Sorry, you were saying.
So yes, and this thought just came about when you asked this great question about when do we start it. And I realized it has no right time to start. It's just that start it. Right? So if you ask me, then it should be it should be a system that just helps anybody innovate at any age. As children, what we did is, for example, my own story is I was watching a program, and It was a program on Johnny Depp. I think it was a Johnny Depp movie, right? So I was watching it and my son was there and I said, son, look at this. I can't remember the name. It's Transcendence, if I'm not wrong, if I'm right, I can't remember. But it's something to do with Johnny Depp and AI, right? He's actually dead and gone and he uses AI to build something and gets back to life. So I'm sorry if I got the name of the movie wrong, guys, right?
I think you got it right.
So I got it right. Okay, so I watched it the second. I said, son, you got to watch this. But he's not keen on watching the movie. I said, son, you got to watch this because you see how the AI mechanics works and look how it thinks. But you know what? I watched the movie, Peter, and after that, I gave my sons magnets to just do something about it. I just gave him magnets. And he was sitting down there. He was about 7, 8 years old. And he was just watching the movie. I'm not sure what he's watching. I was watching the movie. After the movie ended, I just looked down. He actually has built a power station.
Nice.
Using magnets. All right. And interesting, magnets, right? North and north will never join, and south will actually disjoint. He has actually found a way to get the magnets to overlap on each other with north and south and made a beautiful power station that looks something as similar to what was in the movie. Now, I thought he was not watching the movie, but can you imagine that power of imaginary, that imagination that he had, that I see something there in the TV, but I don't know what it is, what it does in terms of the logic or the science of it, but I'm going to build it. And he built that, and I took a snap of that magnet. It was beautiful. It looks so awesome. It just has some mechanics to it. Maybe you'll start generating some power, Peter.
Right. Well, that's amazing.
So, but what I'm going to say is that there's no age. There's no age to this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just give them you just put them into the right system without even giving them no instructions at all, but he just started building it. I think if you just put people where they're supposed to and have a support mechanism, anybody can come up with great ideas.
What does that support mechanism look like to you? Because that's a great key point as well. Like our students do need some sort of support. What does that look like to you?
As I tell corporate companies, you need an innovation lab. We just need to give them a place or a room, right, to just go and build stuff, Peter. That's the most simple thing. I mean, if you put too much of boundaries to students, right, then they go like, yeah, but Peter, yeah, but Seelan, right? You put too much of time to it. Yeah, but Seelan said you have to get it by now. This corporate thing said, when you need it, I need it yesterday.
Right.
Then you'll never get it done. So it's like if you put too much time into it, they say, do it now. All right. Come out at 2 o'clock and get it now. But I think ideas should keep generating. You should give them some time, not to generate ideas that solves people's problem.
Yes.
Which is why I say it's not about the return on investment, it's about the intention. If the intention of the students put them in the room, just a simple room, we call it innovation lab, give it names, and who can name the rooms? Let the students give a name to that room. Let it be theirs, all right? And let the room be, today the room is going to call Falcon Week. Mm-hmm. Or everything is about NASA stuff, and Elon Musk comes in and talks about it, blah blah blah, right? Yeah. The next week is about, let's go into the Apple room. It's all about Steve Jobs and blah blah blah. The next is about Jack Ma, Taobao room. So basically, it becomes interesting because it's not the same room for the next 1 year. The same room becomes different themes, and they can make the room colorful, as Tony Buzan said. The more colors it is, the more creative you become, right? And today, I know the corporate worlds are doing it, and I think let them design their own room in schools. Mm-hmm. Let them build their own innovation lab. So, Peter, for me, right, the way I look at it, Peter, it is just no right one way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Because today we live in a world that the global pandemic has made us realize that there is, it's either you move out, come out, throw the box away and think differently. Right? Yes, I don't say think out of the box. I say throw the box away. There's no more boxes today. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need to get our students to think from inside the box. But sometimes they need to touch the box and think. Sometimes they need to smell the box and think. There's no right way. Sometimes they need to walk out of the box, look at the box, sip a cup of coffee and think. What I'm trying to say, Peter, at the end of the day, we just need to give them time to think, to solve a human being's problem. That's why I say they just need a place, an avenue, call it anything. Give them a room to always go back. Let it be an open door concept room. It's not a door that is locked, or it's a door that is open for them, because thinking ideas come out anytime. And we can even build a virtual reality room for them today. They can get into the room from wherever they are and start building prototypes, just to start building.
That is beautiful. I want to go to that school right now. I love the concept. It's ownership. It's an environment created by students. It is because eventually, right? If you teach them this format, they will go ahead and be able to empathize. They will see challenges, and then they'll go ahead and start fixing it. It'll cycle itself into just an amazing, I don't want to say utopia, but like an amazing place where people are learning and moving forward and helping others in the world, especially like in a pandemic or in global environmental challenges and those things. Wow. When are you going to build this school? That's my next question.
In fact, one of the things I'm thinking of is actually to build an iSchool. That's also another thing I'm thinking about, right? So interestingly, as I spoke to you, you asked me these questions and you've actually fast-tracked my ideas about maybe 2 years already, right? Right, because I'm just so bogged with stuff that I didn't even think about it. But that's my ultimatum. I wanted to build a school for people to just go and build stuff, right? And then mechanics, as you say, in design thinking, be human thinking, which means I'm trying to say it's design thinking. What are you designing? You're designing it for a fellow human being. Whether it's a child that is afraid to go to meet a dentist, we need to do something for them. Whether it's an uncle and auntie that comes out from the airport and that he needs to walk so far to get to find a bench. Maybe the bench should come to that uncle and auntie. Right? We can use AI, we can digitalize that. So if the bench can understand it. So these ideas, Peter, it should come from students, right? Not just from corporate. But students need help. Number one, they have a place to build it. Number two, they need support mechanism to come. The big industry players can come in there. I know great companies do that in Malaysia. Globally, they come in to help them. It's just that it's not starting from a corporate company. Is starting from a very early age, from the school. Just give them a room. Like many great ideas came from the backyards, back alleys, right? A small room, isn't it? I mean, from Jeff Bezos to everybody started from their little, and I started my company from my home as well, right?
Yes.
So it all starts from this little room that gets you to think. So I always say this, that in innovation, you just need time to think. So I call it T times T to the subscript of humans, right? Innovation means time to think about human beings, because you need to solve a human being's problem. And that is what, Peter, we need to help the students understand, that it's not about making millions in the next 1 month. It's about solving one man's problem, one human being's problem, right? A one person's problem. Any countries or whatever, if you can actually really put your thoughts and go deep, of course, that's the design thinking to understand. So design thinking is not about to design, it's about giving them that avenue, that little room to just think and validate an experiment. It's amazing because their thought process goes different level, Peter, and we're starting them early, right? And then if it's good there, show them that avenue to write a simple lean business canvas, right? A business model. Because Seelan, Peter, I've got an idea now. What do I do next? Because they are students, right? We need to guide them. What do I do next? And help them write a one-pager business canvas. And that canvas, it needs to be agile as well. That canvas cannot be the same canvas throughout, because with this pandemic that happened, we need to review canvases as well, right? It needs to be agile. One or two things need to change. Now everything is going virtual. 2 days ago or yesterday, we had this pitch out that was happening in a corporate company. There were 8 ideas that I coached, and I realized that 1 month ago there were different questions that we asked, but last week when you asked the questions, we said, "Are you factoring in the pandemic?" That was what we were asking. You're doing an event management, but can this be a dynamic digital transformation project where if another pandemic hits us, we just pray it doesn't come. We just pray it doesn't come, Peter, right? But can it factor in social distancing, right? So that is something now it needs to be built in anything we do, perhaps because there's a new norm, right? So these things, Peter, that we need to is after the design thinking, the lab for the students, we need to also help them come up with a simple business case, right? Or a business model and help them to pitch it, teach them how they can pitch this idea. If they can go out with the 13 slides, 13 simple 13 slides to get funding, now it closes the gap. So now, interestingly, they want to be that millionaire or billionaire, fine, but by just helping that one human being and showing them the right way of doing it to design thinking, a lean canvas, and helping them pitch that idea, have a practice session in that little room of theirs that they created on their own. Just call the startup investors or venture capital companies to get back into the room.
Yes.
And how they can just pitch it out.
That's beautiful. I love the concept. When this is over, we've had a conversation where I believe I'm coming to Malaysia, right? Is that how we're doing it? I cannot wait to see the school. I do want to give you a chance to let our audience know how would they contact you and your business. So where would a place be where people can find you and possibly help build this thing out with you?
Wow. Okay. Yes. Thanks, Peter. So first of all, you're virtually already in Malaysia. That's number one.
Yes.
Okay. Next is once I pray everything gets well, and I hope I can come over there and you can come over here and we can meet. Yes, Peter. So they can contact me through LinkedIn, right? So it's very easy to find me, Peter. As you know, you can get through Peter or you can get through me. It's Seelan, as in Seelan. Karthi, Karthi, right? From LinkedIn, my emails are there. A lot of my blogs are there. A lot of sharings and videos are there. You can actually catch me up from there. Apart from that, I think that is the first avenue. I mean, I'm in LinkedIn, so it's a great way to, even Peter, you reach me through LinkedIn, right? So I think it's a great avenue, one-stop center for me. It's like everything is coming from there. Yes, this school that I'm talking about, it's something that I have this image. I want to start small, and I'm always open to anyone who wants to reach out to me, right? But it's a school that brings everyone in. There's not going to be any age limit. I think it should be, a school needs to be not putting one category in and building it. It should be everyone coming in. A school for everyone, which means if there's a young boy who's 7 years old who needs to work with a professional from a technological company, let it be that school.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us on Disrupt Education, Seelan. I will put your LinkedIn connection in the description, but I cannot wait to see how you start to prototype this school. I'm super excited.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me. Really, really a pleasure to talk to you, and really, really blessed to also get to know you, Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching Disrupt Education. And if you love this episode, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you constantly get our message with Disrupt Education. Have a good one.